Hey there, welcome to the Business Behind the Game, where we break down the business side of sports, from emerging trends to the people and companies shaping the industry today. I'm Kishag, and today we have a really exciting guest, Antwain Peay. He's a WNBA certified agent, CEO of Baseline Sports, and the general manager of the Yerevan Wolves, a professional basketball team overseas. Before we start, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good too. So I want to jump straight into it, and let's start off with your journey. How did you go from being a college and pro athlete to eventually stepping into the business side of sports?
Well, just like any other hooper out there, I mean, regardless if you play baseball, basketball, soccer, what have you, I was, had the same dream as anybody else, wanted to play pro. But of course, the main goal was NBA.
Mhm.
But I would say between my transition from high school to college, I realized, I may not get that opportunity because the NBA play, I mean, excuse me, the NBA as a whole, I'll say that, they don't go down to the Division 3 JUCOs um, or Division 2, universities, unfortunately. Even back before NIL became a thing, they don't go
Yeah,
down to
yeah.
actually scout those players.
Mhm.
So even if you were averaging 50 a game, that's not going to guarantee you a shot at the NBA. So I found out that playing overseas was an option.
Yeah,
So me and my younger brother actually, even though we're 4 years apart, we actually had the opportunity to go play down in Canada in the original, excuse me, in the original Canadian NBL1 league, because back then they were actually that league was actually considered the best league outside of the NBA.
Mhm.
So we were down there. We played for 4 years. The team that we were playing on folded because of the pandemic. So we were forced to come home. And then ever since we got back, we were looking at well, what to do next, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah.
So my degree is in sports management. So I decided to put that to work and figure out how to be a sports agent.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really cool. I just want to ask you like a follow-up question. Can you just describe to us how it's like playing overseas and just at the college level? Because I know that it's like very hard to get to that level, and there's like less than 1 or 2% of people who actually get there. So.
Regardless if it's college, overseas, NBA, or shit, even semi-pro. If you don't have the physicality, the mental space to actually sacrifice, because overseas is not guaranteed
Yeah.
compared to
Yeah.
NBA, unless you just got a well-known established name where, like for example, like Shaq, even while he was playing, he went back to school, got his master's, and he also has multiple businesses that was generating more money for him off the court versus on the
Mhm.
court.
Yeah.
So unless you got a well-named like like on the Shaq level, then you can versatile. You can make your money off the court, but then focus on your career on the court. So but it's no joke. The only difference with overseas is that it's limited compared to the NBA. NBA and G League, they have multi-year contracts
Hmm.
versus
Hmm.
overseas. A average contract is 10 months, regardless of the country. And then
Yeah.
you got playoffs if the team that you play for makes the playoffs. And then,
Hmm.
or if you get knocked out, you go back home. Depending on certain countries and leagues, it can be anywhere between 5 to 8 months, including preseason. So
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
depends on the league that you're playing in, the country, and whatever team that you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting to see how, you can play professionally and it's a lot different around the world. So, like, you talked about, as you came home, and you had to like find something else to do, right? Was there like a specific moment that you realized you wanted to build a career helping athletes succeed off the court and like through basically agent work and management?
No, I actually made my decision back in high school. Honestly, it was
Hmm.
actually back when I was playing football, and I think it was my computer teacher.
Yeah.
They gave us a project. They're like, what do you want to do? Like, say you were done with school. What are your, career options type situation? And I can I can think of what I really want to do other than play sports. But then my teacher gave me a magazine that says sports management on it because sports management is just a broad term, but it has
Hmm.
options. Because I found out that sports management means you can be in ticket sales, you can be a GM, you can be a manager, but whether it be baseball, basketball, soccer. But then, of course, I came to that page where it says "Show me the money." Of course, if you have seen that movie before with crap, what's his name? Oh, Jim Carrey. That was the picture that I saw in the magazine. And then, of course, I started, researching sports agent. And I found out, so like, oh, these are the guys behind the scenes. These are the ones who rep
Yeah,
Jordan,
yeah.
the ones who rep Kobe and Shaq. So I was trying to figure out what I had to do. Now, again, as a high school kid, didn't know everything, but I assumed at the time that you had to be an attorney.
Hmm.
But I found out as I was getting closer and closer and learning new information that being an attorney and being a sports agent is not the same thing. It's
But yeah,
two
yeah.
different titles, and I found out that you don't have to be an attorney. It helps to be an attorney, but
Hmm.
I've partnered with law firms and things like that. We do have attorneys here in the states now, and then we also have FIBA attorneys. For good, bad, and ugly situations. But it's always good to be prepared. If you don't have the quote unquote license, you can't always work with other individuals. Um, but it wasn't Baselines where I started. I actually started with a company called Sports Management Worldwide,
Hmm.
and they actually taught me how to be an agent, the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And it was actually the president and CEO, Dr. Lashbrook, who is at this point, he's retired now, but I would say 40, 45 years as an NFL agent.
Hmm.
But his program was teaching others that want to be, if you're trying to get ahead in sports, whether it be a general manager, CEO, or a scout, or agent. He had classes where you can take it, and it was a 8-week program where you learn how to be an agent. So I completed the program after school, and then in between me and my brother playing and all the other stuff, I did start out with SMWW. It was a 3-year contract with them.
Hmm.
And so I can, learn how to recruit. I travel, went to combines and things like that, to learn the business side of sports.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so just like following up on that, you've talked a lot about just like different. There's a lot of different parts under sports management, like GM, being an agent, and you've done a lot of that in your career. You've been a player, an agent, an executive, and a mentor. How did each step in that path help you prepare for what you're doing today?
Uh, I say just the experience and wanting to learn about the business side. Um, of course, most players, whether it be, respectfully, whatever sport they play. I mean, for example, like Tom Brady, he's retired and he decided to dabble in commentary on, on ABC and everything.
Hmm.
So same thing with Charles Barkley and Shaq. They are doing the commentary thing. Um, I haven't come across many NBA players that say they want to be a sports agent after they
Yeah,
retire. Some of
yeah.
them just retire completely and don't do anything. They just, collect their retirement check from the league.
Hmm.
Or they be, like I said, a commentator, or at least a coach.
Yeah, yeah.
I think BDA Sports, the CEO is a former NBA player. I think he played for the Nuggets back in the day, if I'm not mistaken. But he's the only agent that I have come across that
Hmm.
played in the NBA respectfully, and then when he retired, he started his own sports agency.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. See how that is. So, I wanted to now shift our focus more towards baseline sports and the Wolves. For listeners who aren't familiar, what exactly does baseline sports do?
So Baseline is is a full service sports agency. My business partner and CEO, he's the one that actually started Baseline. Um, We're going on 18 years in
Hmm.
Baseline.
Yeah,
Me personally, I'm going on 14 years as an agent because I'm also, collaborating my experience from Sports Manager Worldwide.
yeah.
But when I switched over to Baseline, Mr. Bentley actually reached out to me through my LinkedIn account, and the only thing that he was actually reaching out to me for was for two reasons. One, he was trying to see what type of agent I was because he wasn't sure if he could trust me or not. And I
Yeah,
know why, because this is a cutthroat business, especially on the agent side.
yeah.
And then second, he realized that I was using Legal Shield while I was with Sports Manager Worldwide, and he was just reaching out just to ask me why players are not beating down my door for representation, but also to get access to Legal Shield because he has some clients that have baby mama drama.
Hmm.
Passport is revoked, and they got to go through some steps to get it back. Legal wise, child support, like players that don't have as much big as a headache as the NBA players with multiple
Hmm.
baby mamas, but just need some assistance on the legal side, and it's affordable versus paying an arm and a leg. So
Yeah.
that was the reason why he reached out. And then when he found out that my contract expired at Sports Management Worldwide, it was Baseline and two other firms that were reaching out to me and wanted
Mm-hmm.
to bring me a part of their agency. Um, I forgot the names of the other two, but both of the other two, before I got to Baseline, said they were first opening up their basketball division. And they said, look, you can run it how you want to run it, hire staff, the whole nine. Of course, whatever commission that, I accumulate will be mine and things like that. So, but I did the interview with, the either the hiring manager or the COO of the company. And after doing all three of the interviews, I decided to go to Baseline because Baseline was pretty much more of not only my speed,
Mm-hmm.
but it made more sense to me because as of now, Baseline Sports is actually one of the top 25 Black owned agencies
Mm-hmm.
that deals with the overseas market and NBA G League.
Yep. You talked a little bit about Legal Shield. Can you like expand a little bit on that and like what specifically Legal Shield does and how it helps out your athletes?
Yeah, Legal Shield has been around for the last 50, actually, we're going on 54, it's 2025, 54
Mm-hmm.
years. And it's a legal service that the average person, can afford. So I've actually used that to combined with Baseline, so that way our players can also get access to legal assistance if needed. It's for those that, if you're not making six figures, it's just a month-to-month service. We don't lock you into a 2 or 3 year, contract or
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
As long as you can do, $30 a month, that's just for the standard for the family. But we also do, what was the other one? We got small business plans, depending on how big your organization is. And there's also a plan for truck drivers, share riders, if you do like Uber and Lyft, part-time or full-time job. And we also have identity theft program as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I kind of want to shift our focus back to Baseline Sports, and you're now the COO of the company. So what does a typical day look like for you in that role?
Um, it's a lot because my responsibilities and duties, other than just trying to get my players jobs,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hiring interns. I'm training interns that want to be a sports agent to, we eventually, promote them to agent advisor. And then if they want to be a full-time agent, we go through the whole onboarding process. When are they going, get their own certification? I mean, until they get their certification, I'll, deal with mostly the contract negotiations, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing day-to-day operations. Um, Traveling to things like Vegas. Summer League is pretty much around the corner. I'm actually
Yep.
getting ready for that.
Yeah.
And then of course the WNBA just started, so it's honestly my position is hectic,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to make it work as much as possible. But no, this is a cutthroat industry, regardless of what my title is, regardless if I'm CEO, COO, or if I'm just a regular independent agent. Yeah, it is hectic because a lot of players that I have come across, they're not being realistic. They're not
Mm-hmm.
thinking in it the bigger picture. Like, look, you're going to make some sacrifices. Your resume is not screaming, $50,000 per month. So if
Yeah.
you're not on that high end, like the Georges, the Kobe's, or if I do this generation, the Cooper Flags, like
Mm-hmm.
he has
Yeah.
an NIL deal that's up to like 20 something mil. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're not up there, then you might have to jump through some hoops. You might have to go to a combine. You might have to go
Yeah.
to a showcase or a tryout if you want to play overseas. So
Yeah. Yeah, so you talked a little bit about, just talking with your clients. So, like, how do you support your clients exactly, and especially like those navigating through different leagues, like the WNBA, G League, or even going overseas? So,
I just keep it cut and dry. My job as an agent is to manage your basketball career. So while I'm managing your basketball career, that means you manage your personal life. Now, of course, I know the players that are on the LeBron James level, every player is different. There are some players that the agent, pays the players' bills. They give them access to a certain bank account to, get things done, things like that. I have no problem doing that if we
hmm
have players like LeBron James, things like that. But me personally, I'd like to keep things cut and dry. Just like
yeah,
point blank example is if if I'm married and my wife says like, hey, we're having some plumbing issues, in the kitchen or in the bathroom, whatever. Okay, well, I'm not a licensed plumber. I didn't go to school to be a plumber. So what am I gonna
Yeah,
do as the husband? I'm gonna call a licensed plumber. Can say, hey, can you come out to my house and fix my plumbing?
yeah.
The plumber comes out, does his job. I pay the plumber for his services. So same thing for us. So I'm managing your career when it comes to basketball, as far as endorsement deals, NILs, and your playing contract, and I get paid for those three things. Anything outside of that, you pay the respecting service that you need. So we do
Hmm.
have financial advisors, we have attorneys and things like that. We have a list of those. So if any of our clients need those services, we'll direct them to our partners. Say, hey, reach out to so and so. He or she will help you with your situation. Pay accordingly. So if their fee is $100 an hour, you pay for however long you need that service.
Hmm. Yeah. So like, you're part of Baseline Sports right now, and you mentioned earlier that you talk to a lot of other agencies. So what do you think like separates Baseline's approach to representation development, and how does that stand out from other agencies?
So what makes us stand out more is that we actually give the diamonds in the rough. We give them a shot. Because you're not going to see, unfortunately, and I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful, but you're not going to see Octagon, Rich Paul, BDA Sports. You're not going to see them trying to recruit players from Division 3, Division 2, mid Division 1, or JUCO. So we actually give those type of guys a chance, but those players are going to have to meet me halfway if their resume is just not strong enough for the jobs that I currently have. Like I said, with me going on 14 years of being an agent, I do have jobs that are anywhere between 7K all the way up to like 30 or 40, 50K per month or either per season.
Mhm.
So if their resume is just not strong enough or it's just not screaming 50K a month, I mean, man, unless they, have former G League on their resume, ex NBA, or played in Euro Cup, then yeah, some guys they're gonna have to meet me halfway if I decide to take them on as a client. Meaning they might have to play semi-pro in their backyard to offset their stats from college, or if a team from say Germany or Italy they want to see what type of clients I have, but they want to see them in person. I'll set up an event, whatever, whether it be in my backyard or if we got to go to Vegas, which I'm preparing for now during the summer league, or if I go to Chicago or New York, sometimes Florida. I would set up a whole combine. All the clients would, show up respectfully. I would give my guys anywhere between like 4 to 6 months notice, depending on how soon the team needs certain players. And then we'll go from there, either the owner, GM, or a representative from that club or multiple clubs. They'll be my spectators. I put them on one side of the gym and the players on the opposite side, and all they got to do is just scout the players and see who they like. Because those are the type of GMs and owners that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. The ones that grew up watching Jordan, Kobe,
Yeah.
um, Skylar Diggins, or Brittany Griner on the women's side. Those are the ones we like to call our old school GMs and owners. They sign their talent based on what they see with their eyes in live action, versus the new generation. They'll sign a player based on their resume.
Mhm. Yeah. So just like speak a little bit on the importance of like giving those like players a second chance or a bigger shot into making their dreams come true of going pro or
So like I said, it depends on if they're meeting me halfway, meaning that you're just not sitting at the house assuming that I'm going to get you a contract. Say, no, I tell players, even the ones on the high end level, I tend to say, look, no agent can guarantee you a job. Anyone that
yeah.
tells you they can guarantee you a job is BS.
Mhm.
Because not even Rich Paul can guarantee you a job. Everything comes down to either your resume or your talent. So it just depends on what the players are willing to do. So the ones that I do give a shot to, one, you're a grown ass man, you graduated from college. So I at least assume that you're going to at least get like a part time thing so you can at least pocket some change. Because
Mhm.
you never know, I might need you to, come to Vegas. I might need you to come to Chicago or wherever the event's going to be at. Especially if I'm giving you, like I said, 4 to 6 months notice. Look, I need you to pocket some change because you might have to fly out somewhere.
Yeah.
Or or let's say I'm able to get a private workout with the Lakers. The question
Mhm.
is, can you fly to LA? LA's not paying for it. I had to arrange this meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna pay for your flight. They're not gonna pay for your hotel transportation. If you are dead serious about taking on your career seriously, and I get you a private NBA workout, but they want you to fly out to their facility, the question is, can you get there?
Yep. Yep. Oh, I love that. So you talked a lot about being part of Baseline Sports, but on top of everything, you're also the general manager for the Yerevan Wolves. What's it like running a professional basketball team internationally?
So the only reason I got that opportunity is one, based on my experience as being an agent, and also two, me being a former player. But I was actually only talking to the owner as far as just to help him find some players.
Mm-hmm.
So after he was, doing a bunch of interviews and trying to figure out for his now he already, hired his coaching staff and everything. And then when it came to the general manager spot, he actually reached back out to me and said, like, hey, have you ever thought about being a GM? And I said, not really. Why? What you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
Because this is a conversation that he didn't bring up after I found him some players for his team. But he said, like, yeah, I'm in the position of trying to find a GM and everything, blah, blah, blah. So we talked about it for about like 20, 30 minutes. And then to, go through proper channels and everything, I did the whole interview and type situation. I'll say about like a week later, called me back and said, like, hey, due to me being a former player, with me being an agent, I understand the market. I know what GMs and owners are looking for respectfully and things like that. And I told him, I told the owner straight up, like, I don't, do a lot of BS or some, whether it be in the business side or dealing with players. Like, I'm trying to not only, build a career for myself as an agent, but I'm trying to give players an opportunity if they are willing to work with me. And then also, I am trying to be on that Rich Paul level, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
gonna take time. I gotta
Yeah.
build. I
Yeah.
gotta build. But no, like, yeah, after about a week after the interview, yeah, he would like to, bring me on as a GM. I said, like, all right, so when do I get started, and tell me what you need. So we actually have an opportunity in Vegas where any players that are trying to make the Yerevan roster, they're going to go against some of the players that are going to be at the NBA Summer League tryout.
Mm, yeah.
So that'll be an opportunity for me as the GM to, look at film. I will ask for resumes so I can at least go back and see where these players have been, whether it be college or played overseas. And then also I can, compare notes of what I see on the resume versus what I see in person.
Yeah. So obviously, with Baseline Sports, you manage a lot of talent here in the United States, and now as a GM of the Yerevan Wolves, you manage talent overseas in Armenia, right? So, what are some like the biggest differences between managing talent here versus in Armenia or other like international markets?
So managing talent here versus anywhere else is that one, playing professionally is not for everybody, just like going to college is not for everybody. And then also European basketball is totally different than
Yeah.
American basketball. Because like, for example, FIBA actually just changed their rule. But I think if I remember correctly, it's only for quarter 2 and quarter 4, where if the opposing team makes a bucket, then the team can take the ball out and throw it in without the ref touching the ball. Normally,
Hmm.
you have to give the ball to the ref. He has
Yeah.
to clear and say, "All right, you're good to go," and then pass you the ball back, and play resumes. So imagine how exciting and how close games are going to be if the opposing team scores. Now, mine is only the second and fourth quarter.
Hmm.
Team scores, let's say it's the fourth quarter, you're down by 3. They score. You don't have to give the ball to the
Yeah.
ref. You take the ball out and you can Hail Mary it and get the last bucket.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
going to be interesting. And then
Yeah.
also, FIBA also introduced a 4-point system.
Hmm.
So there's actually going to be 4 points if you're playing in certain leagues overseas in Europe. So if you're down by 3, if you're, if the shooters out there,
Yeah.
if you hit beyond that arc, look, you gonna be Mr. Clutch if you can hit a 4-pointer.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, over here, and what was his name? The head coach from UConn, he made a
Hmm.
great point. When it comes to American basketball versus European basketball, over here, we don't have any academies. The closest that we probably have is IMG Academy, but it's only like
Yeah.
four locations in Florida. And when it comes to our AAU programs, we're doing about 4, 5, 6, 7 games either throughout a week or within a weekend, where some of the players or the parents, like the kids, have never met each other, don't know who can play, who cannot play, and
Hmm.
you're just putting a random bunch of kids together just to go play in a tournament. Now, unless you're on a legit circuit, like Nike, YBL, or Adidas, the ones that are actually ran by former players, and
Yeah.
they actually work on practice, they work on the fundamentals, then yeah, some of those guys will actually be able to get through the cracks and survive. Where on the European side, they consistently practice every day of the week, and they only play maybe once or twice on the weekends. So they're
Mm.
not killing their players when it comes to mental illness. They're not killing their players when they got to go out and eat McDonald's an hour before they got to go play the next game type
Yeah.
situation. They
Yeah.
actually have like nutritions over there in the European academies, things like that. Like, I mean, that's why Luca was a pro at 15.
Yeah.
He worked his way up, 14, 15, 16 and under. And then before he even hit 21, he's already playing over here in the NBA making millions of dollars. But
Yeah.
he's already experienced the professional lifestyle. So
Hmm.
he knows how to budget his money. He knows how to present himself both on and off the court. When you have our players over here in the United States, where yes, we do have great players that are, 18, 19, 21 years old, but majority of them, they barely have $100 to their name, but you're giving them $100 million contract over 4 years.
Yeah.
And before the one and done actually expired, Mark Cuban actually made sense where either one or two things got to happen. Either we need to wait for the players to finish all 4 years of college before they come into the league,
Hmm.
or they need to come up with a system where they teach these players how to be a professional athlete, both on and off the court. Because that's why ESPN 30 for 30 broke came out, and it showed that NBA players go broke 5 years after retirement because they didn't know how to manage their money, and NFL
Yeah.
players go broke 3 years after retirement.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff on, especially throughout the NBA, like off-court players, like having problems off course, which is like Zion Williamson. So, like, how important do you think that is? Just especially in Europe, teaching these kids young how to budget their money and live the professional lifestyle, but being humble at the same time.
Well, they wouldn't have to do that if our education system, unfortunately, was actually teaching financial literacy.
Yeah,
Because regardless if these players go pro or not, you're going to have to know financial literacy in general as a grown adult, so that
yeah,
way you can get through life, regardless if you're single, married, no kids, or have kids. No matter what your professional title is, even if it is professional athlete, financial literacy is key, and especially in today's society. If you don't know how to budget your money, with $100, yeah, how will
mhm,
you budget your money if you are making six figures,
yeah,
or if you're the average individual is making like 50 or 60K a year? So, but you got these professional athletes, like until not Jordan, until LeBron officially retires. As
mhm,
of right now, he's the most active billionaire playing professional sports as of right now, at
yeah,
least on the books.
yeah, yeah. So we talked a lot about your journey and being a CEO, being a GM. So what do you think has been like the most challenging part of your journey in the sports business world so far? And also like, was there a moment which you thought things might not work out? And how did you push through that?
Um, Well, I wouldn't say of how it would work out. I would say it's just based on how I take things.
Mm,
For me personally, and I think I've been like this since my high school days. For one, I am a visual person, and then also two, I do analyze things. Like if someone gives me a task to do, or asks me to, complete something, I would analyze whether it be, if it's just a test or if it's a problem. I would analyze the problem and figure out, all right, how many solutions can I come up to fix this problem?
mm,
So, even though I know this is a cutthroat industry, for me personally, I don't take any BS.
mm,
For example, before the pandemic hit, when I decided to go full time as an agent,
mm,
I did have one general manager contact me. I think the job was in Luxembourg, and he was asking me for a point guard and a center, and he told me his salary was 4,000 a month for each position. I was going
mm,
like, oh, okay, well, I got two guys for you. I gave him two of my G League players at the time,
mm,
Of course, in the G League, they're making 7,000 a month, regardless if you starting or coming off the
Mhm.
bench.
Yeah.
But my guys got knocked out in the playoffs. So
Hmm.
I called them and said, like, hey, I got this job in Luxembourg. It's only 6 months. You'll be back before, the G League, calls y'all to come back if they want to resign and everything.
Hmm.
So are y'all okay? But now just to let you know, it is a $3,000 pay cut, but at least you're staying in shape. You're doing something instead of you sitting for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So both of my clients agreed. So I sent over their information to the GM, called me back, say about a week later, he calls me back and tells me, so like, okay, yeah, I like these guys, but do you have anybody better? So I
Hmm.
was like, oh yeah, I got somebody better, but I want 7,000 if I give you somebody better. And the
Yeah.
reason I said that is because that's one, that's what the players in the G League are making. And then two, I called my players first before I even reached back out to him and
Hmm.
said, like, my guys are willing to take this. They have G League on their resume, but the only reason they're okay with taking the pay cut is because one, they don't have anything to do for the next 6 months. It ain't like I had a Nike or a New Balance deal for them on an endorsement deal. Not
Yeah.
at the time. But no, this is a way where they can stay in shape. They're not sitting home, ain't doing anything.
Hmm.
And it makes my job easier as an agent if you're continuously building your resume, making it stronger, because the stronger your resume is, the more money I can fight for.
Yeah.
So after going back and forth with that GM at the time, he understood what I was trying to do, and he signed those two.
Yeah.
Because you're not one. First off, I wasn't a rookie agent when you called me, and
Yeah.
then two, you're not going cheap shot my players. We're not
Hmm.
doing that.
Yeah.
So because it doesn't make sense for me to if the G League was in season at the time and my guys are making 7,000, I'm not gonna call them in the middle of their season and say, hey, I need you to leave the G League and I'm gonna send you to Luxembourg and take a $3,000 pay cut. No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
only made that phone call because y'all got knocked out of the playoffs. You're not going to the championship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So instead of you sitting for the next 6 months, you can still make some money overseas, and it'll make my job easier when you come back.
Yeah, I think like you've talked a lot about ethics, especially like just one through Legal Shield and through to your conversation with this GM. How important do you think that is? Just being ethical in business as well as making money.
Be, to be ethical, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't. I mean, well, not I won't say that. Some, not all. There are some agents on the up and up
Yeah.
that will try to do some shady stuff because I did learn that at Sportsman Worldwide. Um, the the first few agents, when being a sports agent became a thing back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, there were a lot of agents back then before the NCAA did come in, and I want to say the NCAA, at least back then, they were at least trying to protect the student athlete back then,
Mm-hmm.
because you did have some agents back then would go to the player's house the old school way, because internet wasn't big back then,
Yeah.
but they would go to the player's house. If the player, I mean, excuse me, if the agent does know like the player's mom or grandma's having issues, or if they know that the player has a girlfriend, like say, hey, if you sign with me, I can do A, B, C, and D, da 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 da. Because I have read up on that there were some
Mm-hmm.
agents. Now they got caught, they got either sanctioned or their license got suspended for a couple of years. But there were some agents, big time agents back then, before Rich Paul. They would, buy, the player's girlfriend a car, or buy the mom a brand new car, and then but they would use that against the player. Say, hey, look, man, if you ain't gonna sign with me, hey, look, I need that 20K back. Like I
Yeah.
bought your car a car, I bought grandma a car, I did da 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 da. So they would use that, a dirty tactic to get the player to sign with them. Then of course, once the player did get their contract and the agent got his fee,
Mm-hmm.
once that contract expired and then the player was able to pay back the money that was spent on them without agreeing to anything, then they were able to, get up out the situation, try to go find somebody different.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you straight up, because either you're good or you're not. Now,
Mm-hmm.
but if I'm going to work with you, then like I said, if a team wants to see you in person, I need to know if you're able to make it to Vegas or wherever the workout going to be at. Other than that, like if I could get away with it, to be honest with you, just like I'm talking to you right now, I'd rather sit right here in my home office. If I
Yeah.
can get all my clients $1 million contract from
Yeah.
my home office, I would do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Look, I'd be somewhere in Cancun right now, sipping pina coladas, just to take a small little vacation. Or if a GM wants to call me and say like, all right, yeah, look, we zooming right now. Look, I'm on a beach, but I can do a deal. Who you
Yeah.
want? Who we talking?
Yeah.
If I could get away with that, I would. But no,
Mhm.
I look at everything from a realistic lens, so that way I can, tell the players what their options are.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So I wanted to see what you think is like next for the sports industry, and also like how do you see baseline sports in the next 5 years?
So, well, hopefully in the next 5 years, I have my first LeBron.
Yeah.
No, my goal is still to have NBA talent, outside of our G League talent. Hopefully, our guys will eventually get a call up. But no, I'm actually trying to make a career out of this, where I can eventually say yes, yeah, I represented da 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 da. I do want to get to the point where I can retire, but I still got money coming through type situation, with the right investments and the right
Hmm.
players, things like that. But no, as far as baseline in the next 5 years, I see us moving up the ladder because, like I said,
Hmm.
right now, at least on the overseas market for the players that we represent, like I said, we are one of the top 25 Black-owned agencies that deals with the overseas market, with a few G League clients and a few WNBA clients. But yeah, I'm still trying to break through to the NBA. As far as adding other sports, there was a time before the pandemic that I did talk to my business partner and the investors. We thought about bringing in NFL, or at least open up a football division.
Hmm.
So, but the pandemic, messed that up and everything. So I'd have to go back to the investors and see if they're still interested now that we're 5 years out, to see if they want to try to do NFL. Now, of course, I would have to go find some certified NFL agents, ones that know what they're doing, and also they find the right players, so that way everybody is eating, type situation. But no, I see us still doing basketball for the next 5 years, with no issues. But my main goal is to have multiple WNBA and NBA talent within the next 5 years.
Hmm. Yeah. So for my last question, what advice would you give to the young adults trying to break into the sports business world? Like especially those, I mean, as your sports agent, like what would you give? What kind of advice would you give to those who are trying to break in and also like maybe become a sports agent?
For those that are trying to break in, one, understand what you're getting into. And two, I would recommend finding a mentor, or at least do an internship, because the way I actually got started before even coming across Sportsmanship Worldwide was, I actually spoke to an agent. And this was
Mm-hmm.
actually when I was still in college. My mom, she is a retired flight attendant,
Mm-hmm.
but she bumped into her girl for her high school girlfriend one day while she was out grocery shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was married to Desmond Clark, who used to play for the Chicago Bears.
Mm-hmm.
So, so mom, as they, catching up, swap phone numbers and everything. Um, and this is a true story. I can't believe they met at the
Yeah.
grocery store, of all
Yeah.
places. But she got his phone numbers, swap contacts. I called Desmond, told him who I was and everything.
Mm-hmm.
His wife and my mom were old girlfriends, things like that. And then I told him, say, look, I'm in my senior year over in school. Major in sports management. I'm trying to be an agent. Would it be okay with you if I could talk to your agent? Trying to get some pointers, because I was willing to, after graduation, I was willing to relocate, internship, what have you, to learn how to be an agent. But he put me in contact with his agent. And then, uh, funny thing is though, back when Desmond was at Wake Forest, his roommate was Tim Duncan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, he put me in contact with his agent. Um, Now his agent though, when I did call, he was going like, "Who's this? And how'd you get my
Yeah.
phone number?" He
Yeah.
forgot Desmond told him I was calling, but because one, it was his personal cell
Yeah.
number, it wasn't
Yeah.
his work number,
Yeah.
because the top agents, they don't give out their personal number unless it is to a client that they
Yeah.
sign.
Yeah.
But because his office number is what's published online. But
Mm-hmm.
anywho, but since it was Desmond, he was willing to give me a little bit of information,
Yeah.
not the whole shebang, but because you never know if because he looked at it as me being. I said, oh man, he might be a rival one day, which I
Yeah.
get it, because being an agent and this is it's a competition, just
Yeah.
like being
Yeah.
a professional athlete.
Yeah.
It's a competition. You're trying to find the best client and you're trying to get the best contract.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked for about like 20 minutes, and he only gave me enough to get started of what to do, what not to do as an agent. And then he gave a great analogy, was, imagine that you're a baker. You moved
Mm-hmm.
into a small town, you're brand new to the neighborhood, nobody knows you, they think you're an outsider type situation.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one baker in the city, but you're coming in as a new baker. So you want to go ask that baker some pointers because you're new into the city. Now they'll
Mm-hmm.
be, nice to you and give you, well, this is how the community is ran type situation. Introduce you to a few people. But as far as you asking them, saying like, well, how'd you get to where you're at since you're the number one baker in the city? They're not going to give you their tips and tricks.
Yeah,
So I was going like, okay, that makes sense. I get it
yeah,
because it's a business. He's the
yeah.
only baker in the town. Everybody goes to him or her, and no competition. So of course he's always eating. But
Yeah.
here I come as the new baker into the same market. That
Mm-hmm.
means I'm gonna be competition for him. So that's how he perceived it as, man said, he might be competition, but like I said, he only gave me enough so I can understand because I was still a college student at the time.
Yeah,
I wasn't
yeah.
already certified, licensed, and doing ABC and D.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, it was cool and everything. And then me and Desmond, actually, we still talk. I got his phone number, and me and him connect on LinkedIn all the time.
Yeah, yeah. I love how you use your connections for that. So that was our last question, and thank you so much for joining us today. And that's a wrap for this episode of The Business Behind the Game. Huge thanks to Antwain for sharing his journey and insights. You can follow on his socials linked below, and if you like the episode, subscribe and leave a review. I'm Kushag, and I'll see you in the next one.